Hey guys, I'm Julian. Welcome back to the workshop. In this one, what I'm going to be doing is showing you how to make these really high quality full color vinyl stickers and also whole sticker sheets. The difference obviously is that we're going to be using printable vinyl and not sticker paper, which is really rad. And then we're going to lock it in with some clear lacquer right at the end, so hopefully it gives it a bit of longevity. There's a few things you're going to need for this project. The one of which is a desktop inkjet printer. This one honestly is the cheapest one I could find. It was, I think, $35. The ink itself cost more than that, so you don't need anything fancy for this. It prints on, with any desktop inkjet printer. You also need this printable vinyl. So this is the Cricut one. I'll leave Amazon links for this down below. It's worked absolutely brilliantly. Also something you need if you want to make the sticker sheets is the plotter or vinyl cutter. Now Cricut and Brother make one of these. I've got the Brother Scan and Cut. I'll link down below your kind of options for this. It's not a necessity, like I said, but it does make it super easy. You just bang it in there, it cuts everything out, job done. If you don't have one of these and don't want to fork out for one, a craft knife will do the same. A little bit more tedious, but does the job. Yeah, last but not least, of course, our lacquer. So how we'll do this process is I'll show you how I prepare everything on the computer, prepare the files for my sticker layouts, and then once we've done that, we'll print it off, cut it out, job done. Let's crack on. Jumping into the computer part of this tutorial, what I'm going to be using is Adobe Illustrator. If you don't have Adobe Illustrator, you can use stuff like Inkscape and a few other free vector softwares to do this. The other thing that I'm going to be using is the Brother Canvas software. Now I'm pretty sure that Cricut's got the same thing. If you're using the Cricut one, I'm using the Brother, so obviously you need to use that. The first thing you got to do once you open up Illustrator is make sure you got all your settings right for your canvas. That Cricut vinyl is letter, so I'm going to select that. I'm going to use millimeters, CMYK color, and high PPI. And once I've done that, I can click create. It's gonna make me a canvas. Okay, so first thing you want to do is bring in your artwork that you're going to be using. What I'm going to make today, I've got three in mind. One is going to be the Epic Cycle Adventures logo. The other is going to be my new logo for my channel. They're both vector art, so a little bit different, and a few extra things that you can do. The last one that I'm going to bring in is a bit of a meme. This image is actually a JPEG or PNG, so you will have to use it a little bit differently when you're in Illustrator. The vector stuff we can combine and edit in the editor. The JPEG stuff we're just going to trace around it. Once your vector art's in the program itself, what you're going to want to do is create a new layer. So my new layer, I'm going to call it cut, and then the layer that all my artwork on, I'm going to call that one print. Now what I want to do is I want to make an offset cut line for the outline of my stickers. So if you've got vector art, what you can do is drag over everything. This will select it all. I'm going to copy, Control C. I'm going to paste in exactly the same place, so Control Shift V. Now what I'll do is I'll go into the Pathfinder. If you can't find Pathfinder, you can go up into Window. Pathfinder will be there. What Pathfinder can do is it combines stuff into one vector. So if I click Unite, what it's going to do is it's going to make all of that into one object. I want to get rid of all the stuff inside, so if I do that, I'm going to release compound path and get rid of those. Now what I've got is an exact shape of my object, and what I'm actually wanting is something a little bit offset, so it's got a little white border around the edge. I'm going to go over here to Object, Path, and then down to Offset Path. Now offset probably 2-3 mils. I'm going to go for 2, and that'll give me my outline of my sticker. You can come in here if you want and clean up objects like this with the direct selection tool, just to make our cut a little bit smoother, but other than that I'm pretty happy with it. Once you've finished the outline of your stroke, I'm going to select it, I'm going to cut it, so Control X, and I'm going to put it onto the cut layer, Control Shift V. That job's now done. Now if you're using a image, so a JPEG or a PNG, you'll notice that I can't work with this in the same way that I can when I've got the vectors. So what we want to either do here is you can grab your pen tool and just outline what your cut's going to be. That in itself should give you a pretty good result. You could probably achieve that also by just cutting it out with a craft knife. If you want something a little bit more accurate, you can do what's called an image trace. So if you select your object, you go into properties. If it is an image, you should notice that it's got image trace down here in the bottom. Click image trace. It will give you options. I'm going to go with the default, and I'm going to come in here and just edit my threshold settings so that we've got a pretty much a perfect outline of our object. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to select expand. This will turn it into a complete vector. I'll then ungroup everything and grab the piece that I want, which is just the outline. I can go in and delete everything else. Once I've got that outline, I can release the compound path. This should give me just 2 usable objects, and I repeat the same process that I did before, where I select it, go to object, go path, offset path, and that is going to give me a 2 mil offset around my image. So a quick tip before you set into your layout, I'm going to turn off my visuals. I'm going to select all the outlines in the cut layer, and I'm going to make sure that everything is the same stroke thickness and color. This will come in handy a bit later. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a rectangle. This will come in handy later when we're lining up the picture on the cutter. What I've found is that the print settings and the angle of the print are never accurate enough. So what I like to do is I like to come in here and make sure that I've got a rectangle that I can use for reference later. So if we go for a 7" by 10" rectangle, and now what I'll make sure is that everything of all my stickers fit inside this rectangle. So once you're done with your layout, because you've been copying and pasting from multiple layers, they've all ended up on one layer. So what you've got to do is now select your cutting line again and take all of the cut lines back over onto the cut layer. So to do this, because we changed our stroke and stroke color to all be the same, I can select one of them, go into select, go same stroke color. That should give me, in theory, all of the cut lines. I go Control X to remove everything, go into the cut layer, Control Shift V. Now I can turn them off, on and off independently. I also want to make sure that the square that I'm cutting is on that printable layer. That looks like we're ready to print. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn off my cut layer, go into File, Print, and this will bring up my print dialog. Because we're using that reference square, it's not too big a deal where everything sits on the page. The main thing you want to focus on is that it doesn't scale your print or your page at all. You can have this fit to page or something like that, and that's going to blow it out. Right, let's print it. Alright, once I've got it out of the printer, I like to come in and cut our reference square. You only need to do 2 sides, but if you were making a full sticker sheet, you'd you'd go in and do the whole thing. Alright, so the next thing you got to do is save out an SVG file so that you can send that SVG to the cutting software. What I like to do here is I select everything on the print layer, so Control All on the print layer itself. I deselect the reference square because I'm going to take that with me. I'm going to push delete, and now I should be left with just my cutting schedule and the reference box around it. Now when I go to File, Save As, I can save it as an SVG. Now you can jump into whatever software comes with your plotter. I'm going to bring in my SVG. It'll sometimes come in completely black. It's just because you've got fill color. So what I'll do is I'll turn my fill color to nothing and my stroke to red. You'll also see now I can line my box up with those little squares that come on the cutting mat. So once I've printed the object, cut out around that square, I know exactly where it's going to be. Also, if you're having trouble lining everything up, you can come into the settings down here and make sure snap to grids selected. That's where you can put it wherever you need it to be. Now I'll export the FCM file. I'll put that on a USB and take it over to the brother software. You should know exactly where on this grid we laid up our sticker sheet, and I just line up the corner and the edges to their corresponding square. Try not to touch this too much because you can actually smudge it in this state. You can actually smudge the print ink. So I just like to push everything down. Alright, so I'm not going to go super in depth into the operation of this machine. Your one might be a Cricut or any of that. What I am going to do is just kind of tell you what you need to look out for when you're doing stickers. The cutting distance will give you a different result. So if you are just wanting to cut through the top layer of the vinyl and still leave it all as one sheet, you need to set that up quite low. Otherwise you can cut right through the vinyl and the backing sheet, and those will give you fully cut out stickers. We're going to do both here today and see how we go. The last step is to bring them out and hit them with some of that lacquer. This will just seal in the ink and make them completely waterproof. So once the stuff dries, you should be left with some pretty high quality vinyl, full color, water resistant stickers. Yeah, so hopefully you found this helpful. If anybody does go and use this process to make some stickers, hit me up on Instagram and maybe we'll do a sticker swap. I'd love to collect and see what you guys are up to. Yeah, other than that, all the links will be down below that like button, and other than that, I'll see you next time.